Hello, hello, and welcome to Aura Crown Presents the Empowered Podcast. This is your host, Tracy Nova, and today we have a very special guest on. Her name is Grace, and she is a human design reader and also a life coach through human design. Hi, Grace. Welcome to the Empowered Podcast.
Thank you so much
Hi.
for having me. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm so excited to talk about human design, um, especially since you introduced it to me and you gave me a reading, and I was like, "Whoa, yeah, this is that," and like everything just made so much sense, and and I loved all the Instagram accounts you gave to me for me
Yes,
to like
I
check
love
out
sending.
and follow. Yeah.
So exciting whenever I get to talk about it or share it, just because it's made such a big difference in my life since I kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah, so let's get into that. How did you get into human design? Like how did it just come into your life?
So randomly one night, me and my roommate were talking about dating apps and like the questions that people ask you on dating apps, like astrology, like this and that. And then the topic of human design came up. And I just sat there like, what's human design? And so we started talking about it. And I just went down this like 48-hour rabbit hole, find as much information as I could about myself. And it was just one of those things where, like, when you discover something and it just like gives you this tingle of like, holy cow, what is this? Why does it know me so well? That's what human
Mhm.
design was. Um, Finding out why I experienced life the way that I did, or why I make decisions a certain way, why I feel a certain way when I do stuff or go against what my design was made of, just made so much sense. So it's one of those things where human design is a self awareness tool to kind of optimize what you were created for. We're all energy beings, right? And so it allows us to kind of have like a user manual, blueprint, instructions to how to optimize ourselves and the environment around us.
Mm.
So it was pretty cool. Like, I had the cheat code.
Yeah, and that's pretty awesome because whenever you, or at least from my experience too, whenever I dig on something like, oh, what is this? And then I get the tingles or like I
Hmm.
get, whatever sense, like extrasensorial senses that comes through as well. It's like, whoa, like there's confirmation as like, your soul or your higher self is telling you like, hey, you need to look
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what it was for me. I couldn't stop digging into it. And there's so much information out there. Like, there's a bunch of different websites, and then I went on Instagram and found a bunch of different Instagrams, and it was just all similar information. Obviously everybody interprets it a different way because it is an interpretation type of thing. Self-awareness is kind of up to perception, up to what you interpret it as. um but something about it just kept bringing it back. And then I kind of just started talking about it a lot outside of myself. I spent a good couple years just digging into my own design. And then I would, like, go out in public and meet people and then suddenly just start talking about it randomly. And people are like, oh, what is this? And then we, pull charts and I show them mine and little things like that. And then it just eventually became a thing where I was constantly talking about it because it made such a change in my life. And it kind of just went from there. It's like, when we find something that really just we relate to it so much that, like, you can't help but share it because you kind of just want to know everybody's at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that that's pretty cool. Is so like how when did this happen? Like when did you find out about human design?
I want to say about 4 years ago.
Okay, 4 years ago, and then the first 2 years you were just like researching about your own
Yeah,
design.
learning everything I could about why I function the way that I do, why I felt a certain type of way when I like did things that I didn't want to do. Um, and then why I experienced life the way that I did. So like 4 years ago, I went through a major change. Not
Mm,
only, you know, physically, personally, work wise, but also emotionally and spiritually. And so I think it came to me during that time because it was the next step of my journey. Like it was my transformation journey, right? And so, like I said, it came up during a random talk about dating apps, so it wasn't like I was specifically looking for it. But luckily, my roommate at the time, she knew a little bit about it, but not like the way I went down the hole. I just started like, oh my Lord. And it's like, like you mentioned, the tingly, right? So it was like tingly goosebumps, like,
mhm.
where has this been my entire life, right? All of a sudden, I had this thing that told me this is why I went through the things that I went through. I felt a certain type of way when I did things I didn't want to. And then it allowed me to truly embody, like, if I want to say no to something, I'm going to say no to something because my body full on gives you that bleh type of feeling. And so it just gives you permission to like kind of tap into what you already feel inside, right? Like what you know is right. But then sometimes, with society and conditioning and all these other voices is telling you no. But deep down, you just know this is the right thing to do, right? So that's kind of what human design does for you. It just maps out this like way that you can truly just embody what you are meant to do and feel this like aligned flow where you're not forcing anything, where you don't feel like you're letting anybody down. It just allows you to be the most authentic self that you can be, right? And when I say allow, it means if you allow yourself to do it, not necessarily like this thing allows you to do it. Does that
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, as in like taking it like, oh, this has to be me, right? Or
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay. And so how does human design differs from astrology?
So, human design is actually a synthesis of astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, the chakras, and then also modern science, which is quantum physics and genetics. So, it's like a blend of everything. So, it does differ from astrology because astrology kind of predicts an action or something that will happen versus with human design, it's not really like a belief system, it's more just like a blueprint of what you were created for in this lifetime. So like
Mhm,
the biggest example I like to give my clients is a basic IKEA shelf, right? We could
okay.
probably put it together without the instructions, common sense type of thing, but it'd be so much easier if we had the instructions, right? So like, you know, if we were to be shown like how we can optimize our talents and skills, then wouldn't that be such a great tool that we would have, right? Astrology isn't really something where you can kind of see like, oh, this is the blueprint of how to use my energy best,
Mhm.
right? Astrology is more of a, don't get me wrong, I love astrology, but it's more of a like a prediction, right?
Okay.
it does, human design does take aspects of astrology, because it does have things where, it embodies like the planetary placements and whatnot, but
Mhm.
it's more of a, I would say, like a user manual, right? I think that's the best way to explain it. Because with astrology, it's more of a cosmic thing, and
Mhm.
then this is more of a I can kind of take action thing.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And yeah, because I'm also wondering if because there's different kinds of astrology.
Mhm.
There's like true sky sidereal, there's tropical, there's Vedic, there's Chinese, all those different things. So with human design, do they use just one type of astrology or can it use any type?
To be honest, I think it just uses the Western, because the more Asian or Eastern will be the I Ching, and then they also have the Kabbalah. So
Okay.
it's a synthesis of everything. So it's not necessarily where they're like, oh, I'm only gonna take Chinese astrology, right? Because
Right.
it is
Okay.
based off of the birthplace, birth time that you were born, but more where human design is at that time that you were a little explosion of creation. Um, this is the scientific uh, explanation of how your chart was created. It's basically the explosion of when you were created. These little light particles went through you called neutrinos,
Oh,
and they left behind these little pieces of information that becomes what your chart is.
that's so cool.
I know. And the only reason I know what neutrinos is because I watched Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay. The show, right?
Yes, the show, like the whole thing of that show is I'm trying to find neutrinos, and this is what human design is, or the scientific explanation of what it is.
Okay. Okay. I love mixing or like combining science and spirituality or woo-woo
Yes.
stuff, just like, yeah, right, it's right there. It makes sense. Okay.
And
Wait,
that's what this is. It's literally like, you know, you were this little thing and the light particles went through you and then left behind these pieces of information. So not a single person's chart is exactly the same.
okay.
Everybody's chart is super unique. You may have like the same energy or the same, personality or, all these things, but there will be variables to your design. Oh, give me just a second. My dog just went crazy. Sorry. Hold on just a
I was
second.
wondering what that was. No worries.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was
He's
wondering. I was like, is that a dog or a cat?
a child. He's really old and I think he's just cranky right now. I was hoping he'd take a nap, but
Oh. Okay, so neutrinos, how do you spell that? Because I want to research this.
hold on.
I'm like such a geek when it comes to these things. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Neutrino.
Okay, okay, perfect. Okay, okay, I have it bookmarked in my phone now.
But yeah, so it's funny because so when I decided to be serious and actually get certified and take a class, to learn way more than I could just find on my own, um, the first thing that they go over is, the origins of human design, right? And part of that was going into the scientific term. And the minute it said neutrinos, I was like, I know what that is.
Yeah, you're like another confirmation that this is the path I'm supposed to be on.
Right. I mean, the fact that I had just finished binging that entire series, probably a few months before that, I was like, holy crap, I know what this is. I know what this is.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Okay, so for those of you who do not know what human design is, do you are you able to explain like who invented human design or
Yeah.
like how?
So, well, it wasn't necessarily invented. This goes into a little bit more spiritual, where this Rahu Guru, he received a message that he needed to interpret. So he
Mm.
hold on, I actually have his information. Give me just a second. I pulled it up because I had a feeling you were gonna ask me this. uh, so he actually he felt like a message came to him that he needed to interpret, and he created um the system. But it's not really like a belief system. He literally just received something and just started transcribing it and started sharing it. So he is the founder. His real name is actually Alan Ralocker, but he
Okay.
when he developed it, he went to Ra Uru Hu.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And because like when you did the reading on me, I was like, whoa, there's so many different um like variables in this. It's not just one thing or two things, it's multiple things.
Yeah, and you're always, no matter what, you're always discovering something new. Like it's to this day, I still find new things about my design. Um, so every time I do a reading for somebody new, every time I get a new chart, I discover new things all the time. So it's ever changing. Even with my mentor who I got certified through, she still is learning because it's a never ending, like, it's not like we're this is it. This is all you can learn, right? We discover new things like, there's pet charts now. And
Mm.
then I've done a few connection charts, which is, with a partner or, a significant other. So every time I do something, I learn something new. I learn something new about myself. Um, but the history of it is basically he believed that he was given this message by like somebody in something something just started him sending him message, and he just had you know needed to listen to this voice and just started transcribing all this stuff. And that's how the system was kind of created. I mean, you know we're both pretty spiritual, so sometimes there's really no explanation, but the fact that I found myself in written form is just kind of crazy. Like, the fact that it was so accurate, the fact that it was just like, like sometimes, when you read horoscopes or you read, something and you're just like, oh, that could be me, like it's always up to
Yeah.
interpretation, right? Some people feel
Mhm.
very aligned to their design. Like I've had a few readings where they're like, oh, that doesn't really feel like me. Um, and that's okay. Sometimes we just don't feel aligned or we're not in a place to feel aligned to it. Um, but for the most part, like I don't I don't really know how to explain it. It was just like mind blown. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. So can you tell me like how human design has changed your life?
So, when you're going through the transformation of your next journey, there's always a lot of things you're like, why me? Or, why did this happen? Or, you know, how come? Like we want an
Mhm.
explanation, right? For me, it was like I understood. So I understood why I had to go through the things that I did, right? Why I went through so many highs and so many lows in my life. I understood that I needed to experience this because it was part of my design.
Mm.
So, for me, I am a 6-2 generator, which, hold on, let me back up a little bit. So with human design, there's three main things, right? So it's your energy type, your profile, and your strategy. Um, Energy type just means what you are, your energy is meant to do within society or within the world, within the planet. So energy type is like your aura, right? There's 5 different types of energy. There's generator, which that's what I am, and also you are. We
Mm-hmm.
have manifesting generators, which are blends of manifestors and generators. And then we have projectors, and then we have manifestors, and then we have reflectors. So reflectors are the most rare, which I have yet to encounter one. I'm waiting for the day that I get to encounter one. But it basically just means what you give to the collective or what your energy is meant to do for the collective, right? So for generators, we produce the life force, literally like what an electrical generator does, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
generate the life force and energy for the collective to run on. Right here. With being what we are, the only way we release that energy, that we have that unlimited source of energy, is if we're doing something that lights us up and brings us joy, right? So the only way that we help the collective is if we do something that brings us joy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
how we give the energy to light up a light bulb is what we apply to our life, right? So your contribution to the collective is bringing the light or generating light, generating energy. And the only way to do that is if you do something that brings you joy, right? Um, so that's what I am. I'm a generator, which you are too, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
goes back to where I understood that when I was doing things I didn't want to do, I was always tired. You know what I mean? I wasn't energized. And then if I'm doing something that I love to do, I have an unlimited amount of energy, right? So when I read this, it kind of made me think back to, past instances of that made so much sense, right? If I wasn't doing something I wanted to do, I really didn't have the energy. I really didn't have the, willpower to do it. So that was the first, like, whoosh, that made sense, right? And
Yeah.
then, profile, which is your personality traits, right? So it's like your unique traits to you and your role in this lifetime. So for me, I'm a 6'2", which is a role model hermit. Um, So with the line 6, basically means that for the first 30 years of my life, I'm going to live life, right? I'm going to experience all kinds of ups, all kinds of downs. I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff. And then, the next phase of my life, I will be integrating, which is where I'm at right now, integrating all the information, all the experiences, realizing why I had to go through all those experiences.
Mm.
Because in my third phase, I become the role model, the wise woman, where I will share all of my experiences, all of my random knowledge
I got
to others,
tingles.
right? Because when I realized that, I was like, oh, that makes sense why, everybody kind of always comes to me for, and for, advice or like, therapy. Well, not therapy, but like, just somebody to talk to, somebody, to bounce ideas off of. And I will have this random knowledge in my head because I love learning and experiencing things, just like the fact that I knew what neutrinos were.
Yes, yes. I love it.
Right. So I'll always have like some sort of knowledge from a show that I watched or something that I read. And, that's where, the role model kind of comes in. Right. So yeah. And then, so that's your profile. So everybody's profile is unique, meaning, depending on what your energy is and what your profile is, you function kind of differently. So the second part of my profile is my hermit mode, which I love like my alone time. I love
Mm.
being, but it doesn't mean that I'm introverted. It just means that during my alone time is where I think the best, I regroup the best, I recharge the best. But also having that too allows me to have this like natural ability to kind of pick up on anything, and there's no explanation on how I know how to do it. I just know how to do it. So like a
Mhm.
unique talent. Um and then the third thing would be your authority. Authority is like how you make decisions, your compass, right? your intuition. For me, I'm a sacral, which means my body, my gut will physically react to that decision, right? And so
Okay. Yeah.
basically, it's basically tuning into what you already know. And us as females, we have the strongest intuition. It's a natural
Mhm.
intuition, right? But now it's more learning to focus that intuition and realizing when you're saying no to something and it feels right, or you're saying yes to something and you just want to throw up,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all done that as females, we've all done that. Said yes to things we didn't want to do and just felt like crap.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Right? It's literally our body, because you're also a generator, and you have the same reaction when you say yes to things. Like you physically feel like you want to throw up, like everything in your body is telling you no. And
Mm-hmm.
so with that, learning to tune into that and realizing when my body is saying no and when it's saying yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You need to go somewhere.
So, so when you started to apply human design into your life, did you see significant changes?
I did. I did. So when I started discovering more about it, like I said, I went 2 years. First year I was kind of just researching. Second year I decided, you know what? I'm really gonna listen, like tune into it, like live into it, right? And the one thing was saying no, to stop being a people pleaser, to saying no when I wanted to say no, and to say yes when my body was just like yes, 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 right? So that was the first thing that I applied. My authority, saying no to things that felt icky. So the way it works for me is if somebody asks me something and I don't have to think about it and it's just yes, then that's meant for me, right? If I have to think about it, rationalize it, it's not for me.
Hmm.
So having that freedom of like literally saying no and not explaining myself because I don't want to is pretty freeing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It, it's like that's empowering.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, as Asian female, the way that we were raised or the way that we were conditioned is to, do things you don't want to do, right? Society has told us, we have to follow a certain path. We have a certain timeline. But like literally it just gave me permission to say, screw you. I'm gonna do things my way. So yeah, so giving me the permission to say, actually not even giving me the permission. I gave myself the permission to stop saying yes to things that I didn't want to do. So that also entailed with like, one of the things that I used to do when I was younger was obviously say yes to things because I felt obligated,
Mm,
right? We're
that's a huge
ingrained,
one.
right? We're ingrained to like, we have obligations to our family, we have obligations to, society. So, like that whole thing where like you have to go to school, you have to get a degree, you have to have a job, you have to get married, you have to have kids. That's ingrained in us by the way we were raised by our parents, especially being female Asian. Um, all of that used to play into it, where I would take jobs out of obligation necessity, right? I would work at jobs that I didn't like because I
Mm,
had to, not because I wanted to, right? So
mm-hmm.
one of the things that I told myself when I got laid off the last time was I will only say yes to opportunities that feel right. And best decision I've ever made.
Uh-huh.
And the minute I started saying yes to things that felt right, like everything just fell into place. As generators, when we operate in our light, in our joy, it's kind of like, you know, the example of like, you know, moth to the light. So
Yeah.
we naturally, when we're doing something that we love, we shine, we light up, and it attracts opportunities to us where we get to say the yes or the no. So that's kind of like the biggest change, is that like I truly started listening to, I got to do things I want to do. Not in the selfish way because I'm not harming anybody, which is the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I do tell my clients is say yes to the things that feel right, say no to the things that don't feel right, and do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't harm anybody, right? And so with that said, it just became more free. Like I became more free. Like I got to feel what I wanted to feel versus what everybody told me to feel or what society expected me to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And that's important, especially for a female.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, yeah, that is very beautiful and very empowering to step into your blueprint
Yes.
because that's what we were, born with, right? And that guides us on like our path or multiple paths in this lifetime that we're supposed to experience and learn and grow and evolve and live life, you know? And a lot of people out there, a lot of them are, a lot of people are lost. Yeah, there's sometimes where I feel even confused. I'm like, what? I'm having my fourth child. What am I doing? Like what?
You're an incredible woman for that.
I was like, what? I was, this was not a part of my plan. Maybe my higher self was like, no, you're gonna go through this.
You know what? Sometimes the best laid plans are unexpected.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And it's something that I tell myself all the time as well. It's like, you know what? I have put my trust in, my spirit guides, my teams, God's source, my higher self, that whatever happens is what's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
that's going to lead me to my highest timeline or, whatever it is. Um, and the highest timeline may not look like all peaches and gravy and like love and light. It's just what we're supposed to experience in life so that our soul can evolve and learn. And so but then like when you're like in that moment, you're just like, what the like
Yeah,
ah.
I mean, like, you know, that takes a lot to overcome because we're so used to trying to control everything. But
Mhm.
the reality is we can't control anything. You know, we
Mhm.
can't control the outcome of, you know, what we want something to be. You just have to control, actually, you just have to give up the control, right?
Mhm.
Do you, right? Literally do you. Be you, be your most authentic self, be your most optimized self, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You can't control it, right? So if you feel that this opportunity is right for you, or this thing, or this decision, or this trip, if your body feels like yes, just do it. You're not going to be able to control what's going to happen, but you have to trust that if you do what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, things will good things will happen, right? So
Mhm.
it's just learning to like, sounds really weird because you know we've been told use your head, but feel your decision, right? Your intuition, your body, your surroundings. If it feels right, do it. If
Mhm.
something hesitates, if you have to overthink, if you have to rationalize it, if you have to make sense of it, it's probably not the right decision.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, and I have a lot of clients that are in their heads a lot, and it's hard for them to like come into their body and feel and understand themselves like their body without the mind.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, with my clients, I'm like, okay, what I notice is that they're unable to go into their bodies because of all their trauma that they went through,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know? So like when you do human design for your clients, how can you teach someone who's been in so much trauma to like to feel? So like say their design is like for them to like come into their body and feel their decisions and choices and things like that. How can you help someone go into their body and feel? Is that something that human design can like
It
show a
can,
way?
because what it does is with human design, most of the authorities are made to be felt. Some of them are different. So so with um so with generators and manigens, we usually feel our decisions, whether it's instant feeling or emotional, where we have to come to a neutral, which you're an emotional. Um,
Hmm.
it just means that you need to tune into what your body is telling you, right? And with people with trauma, is because they're in their heads. So you kind of have to be open. I mean, most of the people that come to me for readings or come to me for life coaching, they are already open, right? They're already willing to change themselves. But teaching them, or kind of showing them where they are holding their fear, or why they feel a certain type of way because they are feeling the energy of the environment, is kind of just making them aware, right? So like, we all have triggers. Depending on, where your trigger is, I can kind of show you, if you feel a certain type of way during a certain situation, this is why, right? So it's not so much where I can tell them like, hey, this is what you do. It's more like, this is why you react the way that you react, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's
Hmm.
more of just pointing it out, so that they can be made aware that the next time they feel this type of way is like, oh, it's because I'm this way, right? So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily highlighting their traumas, because we all have trauma that we need to work on, but it's more of just like, ooh, maybe I need to step away from this person, or I need to step away from this environment because I'm receiving some sort of trigger from.
Okay, okay,
So it's more
okay.
of just the energy part. So like, for me, example, I have like my where we store our, self-worth. My energy center is undefined, that in that area, meaning it's not colored in. Growing up, a lot of my self-worth was dependent on people pleasing, or it was outside. And the reason for that is because I was meant to receive the energy from outside sources. So learning that my self-worth is already within me allows me to block out the fact that I need outside validation,
Mm.
right? So kind of learning, that goes more in depth when we do charts and stuff, but learning where my triggers lie and how to recognize that, oh, that's not really me. That's outside energy source, So it's basically, learning to embody what your design is. And the more you start aligning to it, the more you realize when you're out of alignment.
Okay, okay.
So like kind of pull your energy back and pull it all back to yourself and be like, I got this, like I know how to do it. I know that I don't feel right. I know that I'm out of alignment, And so
Mhm.
the biggest thing I kind of tell everybody is, don't think, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That makes me curious. Like, have you or your mentor have ever done a human design reading on a child before?
So I personally, well, I didn't, I've interpreted a chart for a client of mine because he has two daughters. And when I did the reading for him for his daughters, like I didn't do it directly to the kids, but when I interpreted it, he said that makes a lot of sense of why they act a certain way. So there
Mm.
is a thing where you can pull it for your child. I believe they need to be at least 5 or 8. I can't be correct on that just because they're still developing, but it can actually be done pretty young. There is an Instagram that I follow that she does parenting for human design because it allows you to parent your child based off of their human design. Meaning, if they're a generator, if they're a manifester, like if they're a picky eater, or if
Mhm.
they are emotional or sacral, like
Mhm.
depending on what their energy type, it allows you to help parent them because you can cater to why they make the decisions that they make or why they are more active at night versus daytime, right? Or why they just need naps or why they don't need naps. So you
Mhm.
can't, like I said, I've done connection charts and partnership charts where, I can do like couples and how they interact the best, or, partnership as far as work where, how you optimize your employees. So I have a client where I did his entire team, and it helped him understand each employee a lot better and to optimize like how you direct them, right? Like
Mhm.
we all need to be spoken a certain way, right? Sometimes you're like, why do you not understand? But it might just be that their energy doesn't respond to that way. So you have to reword it so that they respond to what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the
That
same thing with children, or same thing with your partner, is that you have to ask them the question the way that they respond to it, then they'll understand because that's what their energy or what their design is.
mm, that's pretty cool and that's super fascinating. How long does it take to do a human design read for like two
So
people?
so with the connection charts, the goes anywhere from an hour to two, depending on how each person responds, because I'm very interactive. Like it's not just like, here's your chart. Like I will ask them, do you have examples of how this works, or does this make sense? Have you experienced this type of this type of situation? Because with connection charts, it shows where one person gives the energy and one person receives the energy, and where you what's the word? Where you not lift. Can't think of the word right now, but like where, let's say example. So I had a client where one is like very extroverted, one's very introverted, and so one would be the face of the company and the other one would be behind the scenes, right? And when I pulled the connection chart, I could tell off of it why one was a certain way, one was the other way.
Mhm.
So it's where you connect and become your best selves together.
Mhm.
Share the energy, and then you create this new little energy that both of you can tap into. So it's pretty cool. Like it's like a puzzle, which I love. I love puzzles. So it's human design itself is a puzzle because it's like learning about yourself and putting the pieces together. So with connection charts, it gets even cooler because you get to see why you get along, kind of like why it makes sense, why you do business together so well, because it's like you guys fill in each other's energy to like create this like new energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And with one of your clients that you did, he wanted all of his employees done too.
Yeah,
Get any feedback or see any changes of how
I
their
did. I
dynamic
did. I
worked?
did. Yeah, I did. He kind of, I mean, because I did everybody's charts, so he kind of just mentioned how like he had to change the way he spoke to them or instructed them to do something because when he did that, they responded better, meaning they
Mm.
understood it better, right? So it helped him as a boss utilize his employees to their specific design. So their special talents or where they did the best. So like, if he had a salesperson placed in an area where they weren't good at, but he couldn't understand why they weren't good at it. Once we did the reading, he changed the way that he instructed them. And then all of a sudden this person was like really good at it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy how a little change can be such a big like effect.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's and that's really fascinating because let's say if I was that employee, right? And I'm like, I would be like, why am I failing? Why do I suck? You know? But then when I interact with other people, like let's say singing, like singing, okay, so with this person's like telling me to sing, but then I just like suck at it. But then whenever I go somewhere else and sing, it's just like amazing, Like I was like, yeah, I don't suck there, but then I suck there. Like, why? What happened? So it's just the interaction
Yeah.
and the energies. Wow, that's pretty cool.
But also it's because sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves to do things a certain way. But like, you know, one of the things example is that, like one of the employees, she was like, "Oh, my boss tells me to do it this way, but I know a different way to do it." And I was just like, "Well, just do it that way." Like
Hmm.
because in her design, she was naturally gifted at finding different ways of doing things. Meaning she was, what's that word? Gosh, I can't think of that word. Word blanking. But basically she was like not the guinea pig, but she had the natural ability to see instead of ABC, she could see different ways of like she might see like BAC or CAB, like a different way of doing it that would be better, right? Trailblazer. There we go. That's the word.
Okay.
Her design was naturally the trailblazer. And so, she was like, "Yeah, but he wants me to do it this way." I was like, "You know what? Just do it this other way. And if all of a sudden people are like, how'd you do that? Then you can share it." Right. And so that was one of the things where, I kind of just started being like, look, not everybody's going to learn the same way.
Hmm.
Just let everybody be themselves, and you'll see once they start living up to who they are meant to be.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It's just,
And
to be honest, it's not like a belief system, where like, oh, I must believe it, right? It's all up to interpretation. When I do these readings, I give you the information, you do what you want with it. The people that truly want to embody it, they'll be like, what should I do? And the one thing that I tell everybody is take one day, do anything that brings you peace, do anything that brings you joy, that lights you up, and stop doing things that feel icky. Stop doing things that frustrate you. Stop doing things that anger you. Stop doing things that just make you want to throw up. And see how that one day goes. And when that one day turns into second day, into a whole week, you'll see the biggest change. And that's when you're living in alignment to your design.
yes, that's beautiful. And I feel like human design can just go so deep.
Yes, it's so
Now that we're having this podcast, I'm like, wait, there's more. Oh
there's
my
so much
God.
more. Like, I'm only tapping the surface because, it's three main things that I tell my clients because there's so much more in depth, like to it, as I spoke about the centers, planetary placements, like that all goes into like really, really deep, 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 like deep into the reading. But like, the basic things is understanding your energy, understanding your personality, and understanding your authority of like, your compass, right? So, usually if I have, clients that come to me on a weekly basis, it's teaching them to truly embody those three things first, and then everything else in your chart just starts falling into place. Because if you learn to, work your energy, if you learn to accept what your personality is and be okay with it, and then learning to tune into your compass, your intuition. And once you do that, all the other little pieces of, your energy center, your, environment, your strongest sense, what's another variable? Your gifts, your channels, like all of that other stuff falls into place.
Mm. All of this is just like so wonderful, and it
It's
makes
a
me
lot
want
of
to,
information.
yeah, it makes me want to dig more into it. And and gosh, I just feel like my mind has just been blown a little bit right now. I'm like,
That's how
wait,
I felt.
I'm like,
That's how I felt 4 years ago. And to this day, even now, like my mind gets blown.
oh wow. Okay, so for everyone that's listening, where can they find you?
So funny thing is, I do have an Instagram account, but I just don't post on it yet because I am looking for the perfect person to do my Instagram. It's Live Your Divine Design. But you can reach me at liveyourdivinedesign@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. And everyone that's listening, I will have that in the description so that way you guys can see it as well. And what so what you offer, do you have like what services do you offer with human design or
So
life
I
coaching?
offer, if you just want the reading, I offer just a reading and, a deep dive into charts. Obviously, a lot more than what we covered today. Usually it's about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on questions or how deep we go into your reading. I also offer partnerships, and significant other charts, so connection charts. I also offer like a weekly service where if you want to tap in for an hour, we can go over how it's going, any questions you have on you know how to live into your divine design, right? Which is why I kind of came up with that. Live your divine design is how you're embodying it, how I can help. So there's always going to be support. It's not like I just do the reading and disappear. I'll always be here to support. But I do have clients that come to me on a weekly basis, kind of like a little bit of therapy, a little bit of coaching, just making sure that, they're tapping into their best selves or optimizing what is naturally already in you. Like I'll have clients tell me, like, this is my situation this week, and I'm just like, oh, did you listen or did you think?
Mm-hmm.
So just stuff like that.
Perfect. And so if someone wants like a really deep dive into human design, what would be the best service to get? Would that be the weekly one?
It would probably be the weekly just because it is a lot of information. It's not something where it's one and done because
Right.
even in the initial reading, there is a lot of information to integrate. So you do have to kind of want to put in the work to truly embody what your design was meant to do. So I do recommend if you're wanting to truly like, live that design or make a change in your life, the weeklies would be best. Especially because every week we can discover a little bit more about yourself and, learning to embody your big threes is the first step towards understanding the rest of your design.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Wow. Okay. This is a lot.
I know.
A lot of information. Wow. Okay. So thank you so much, Grace, for coming onto this podcast and sharing your experiences and your knowledge and your wisdom. all of it was amazing. And everyone out there listening, I will have all of Grace's information on there for you guys. And of course, if you guys have any questions, just hit one of us up.
Thank you so much for having me. I am very grateful and blessed to have met you, and I'm really happy to share it. Just the more I feel like the more people learn about theirs, the better the world can get.
Oh yeah, definitely. People need to know about themselves.
It's just, it's just one of those things, especially when we've journeyed the way that we've journeyed. Like, I just feel like it's something that can help everybody.
Yes, yes, definitely. All right, till then, guys.